Welcome back, everybody. It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. Sorry for the delay on this one, so we got a little bit hung up with family and holidays and all that. But still getting you guys the remaining starts and sits this week. I'm going to cover the final 8 games of the week. So I'm recording this on Friday. We've already had the Black Friday game between the Chiefs and the Raiders. The Chiefs got lucky and barely won again, and then the 3 Thursday games, obviously on Thanksgiving. So 8 other games to get through. If you guys have any specific start sit questions, as always, just let me know in the comments. I want to apologize again as well for not having the usual setup. Still traveling, but next week we'll be back to normal and we'll get things rolling there for the last week before the playoffs. So yeah, let's just get into it, and hopefully you guys had a good Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to all you guys. Appreciate everybody here, and hopefully you guys had a good time with family and all that. So yeah, get into it here. The first game we'll talk about here is going to be the Titans at the Commanders. A lot of gross things moving around here. The Commanders are sort of on fraud watch, it seems like, but they should win this game pretty handily regardless. The Titans, Pollard and Ridley feel like solid plays. Pollard obviously gets a bump as Tyjae Spears remains out with a concussion. Sounds like he's sort of trending towards playing, so keep an eye on it. You're playing Pollard, I think either way is like a solid RB2, but gets a pretty significant bump if he's going to have the backfield entirely to himself. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is someone that you might be considering. He's obviously scored a lot of touchdowns lately. I'd prefer to bench him. It's a tough matchup. No teams on bye this week. I think you can do better. But the Commanders, Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin, they're going to be in for me. I know last week most of their production pretty much just came in like garbage time in the fourth quarter. But regardless of that, I still think you can play them for sure. Zach Ertz, solid low end tight end 1, not going to be super sexy or anything, but he's getting the job done. You can certainly do a lot worse than him. The running back position, though, for the Commanders, kind of a disaster. Austin Ekeler should be out here with a concussion, so we're going to be looking at maybe Brian Robinson playing this game with a sprained ankle. That really scares me. I think I'd prefer to sit him if he plays, but if he does play, I view him as like a low-end running back 2 with a pretty much 0-point floor because you don't know how active he's going to be. Maybe he'll be active as just like a goal line back only. He's a bigger body than Jeremy McNichols, so just really scary. I don't love it. If he does sit, though, I think Jeremy McNichols, solid, like low-end RB2, especially in PPR, but it's pretty gross there. I think it's okay to sit every single Commander running back regardless of what happens here. Next game should be super fun here. We've got the Steelers at the Bengals. Really high over-under in this one. Should be a pretty high-scoring game, and I think you can play a lot of players in this one. So for the Steelers, Russ, I think he's a really solid streaming option. I wouldn't be shocked to see him go for 250 and 2. Maybe he sneaks in a 3-touchdown game here. Really solid option there. I'm pretty confident starting Russ. George Pickens, he's a must-start. If you remember last year, he had a game with 4 catches for almost 200 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Bengals. Really solid play. I think you're playing Pickens. Najee, he's a solid RB2. Again, high over-under. I think he's got a good shot to score in this one. Has been less efficient lately, but I think that should be okay here against a bad Bengals defense. Freiermuth, Jaylen Warren, both low-end options. I think you can play them. I'd prefer to play them in like a full PPR format, but they're not guys that they're really looking to in the red zone a whole lot, so it's not great, but you can play them if you need to. And then for the Bengals, you're starting everybody. Burrow, Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, T. Higgins, all 4 of those guys are in for sure. I wouldn't get cute with any of their wide receivers or the tight end position there, though. Next, we got the Cardinals at the Vikings. It's a great matchup here for the Arizona passing attack. The Vikings are effectively a pass funnel. You can't really run on the Vikings, but you can throw really effectively. We saw last week what the Bears passing offense was able to do. So I think you're probably playing Kyler even off a really bad matchup, a really bad game last week. Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride probably in as well. Harrison obviously comes with risk, but it's just tough because there's a really high ceiling there for Marvin every single week. Like, if you told me he goes out and catches 7 passes for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, I'm not going to be shocked. That's very much in the range of outcomes for Harrison, and it's certainly not for a lot of the guys you might be considering instead of him. So I'm okay playing him. Just understand that it's possible he very likely goes out there and goes 3 for 40, and you're a little sad. So I still think you're playing him, but it's possible you've got better options if you're like really stacked at wide receiver or something, smaller leagues. He's not a must start, but I'd probably be playing him. James Conner, tough matchup here. Like I said, you can't really run against the Vikings, but I'd still probably play him. I played him over Dowdle in one league. Kind of sad about that. Dowdle obviously had a really great game on Thursday, but that's the kind of decision I was leaning towards, and I still felt like Conner was the better play there. For the Vikings, Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, they're going to be in for sure. There's just no way I'd bench either one of those 3. Jordan Addison, he's a solid flex option here. The Cardinals defense is tough to get a read on right now, but I still think they played pretty well last week. I know they lost, but they held the Seahawks to a pretty low point total despite giving up a pick 6, so it wasn't even the defense's fault. I know Addison went nuclear last week, but that was with Justin Jefferson doing nothing. Can't imagine Jefferson having 2 straight near 0 games. So I think you're playing Addison. It's like a solid flex play, but in like shallower leagues, he's not a must start by any means. And then Darnold, I'd prefer to sit him here. Just, Cardinals are a team you can run against pretty effectively. I wouldn't be shocked if Darnold ends up going with like 200 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, maybe a turnover. Aaron Jones maybe gets in the end zone. I just don't want to play Darnold. I think there are better streaming options this week, especially with no buys. Next, we got the Rams at the Saints. Really high over-under in this one. It's the second highest point total of the week. The Rams, I think you can play pretty much all of them. Stafford's a really solid streaming option. I had to pick between him and Tua. This week, I went with Stafford, so I kind of wish I went with Tua because he got a lot of garbage time on Thursday, but I did choose Stafford in that matchup. It's the kind of range you're looking at there, and Stafford, I think, is a guy that can be a low-end quarterback one this week. Kyren, Kupp, Puka, all three of those guys are in. I can't imagine seeing either one of those three. For the Saints, Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara both feel like must starts. I can't imagine seeing another one of those guys. MVS, solid flex option. You're going to need the big play, but it's going to be there. There's going to be a couple plays this state game where they will throw it deep to MVS. If it comes down with one, you'll be happy. If he doesn't, you'll be sad. So I think it's a solid option. It's a good fit, honestly, with Derek Carr. He's basically filling that Rashid Shaheed role. And then Derek Carr, like I mentioned, you can stream him if you want. I would prefer Stafford. I'd have preferred guys like Jordan Love and Tua earlier in the week, but I think you can stream him if you want to. I'd prefer Justin Herbert. Like, there's a lot of like sort of fringe level guys that you can play, but I'd prefer to avoid starting Carr. But if you need to, there are worse options. So you could certainly do that. Next, we got the Bucks at the Panthers. For the Bucks, Bucky Irving and Mike Evans, both must starts in this one. Bucky Irving's playing fantastic, and the Panthers are the best matchup for running back. So you're playing him for sure. Baker, Cade Otton feel like solid streaming options as well. It's a game the Bucks should win pretty handily. The Panthers defense, not good at all. You can play pretty much everybody there. You can play Rachaad White, but I'm a little bit scared here. We saw Bucky Irving outsnap him last week. Sean Tucker got a lot of goal line work, which is really scary because like Rachaad White not even really being automatically used on passing downs right now, has scored touchdowns like 3 weeks in a row. So it's making his point totals look okay, but behind the scenes numbers, his usage, just the situational usage as well, really scary for Rachaad White. So I'd prefer to bench him if you can, but I get it. Running backs are tough. He's a low end RB2, but the floor is really near zero there. They're working 3 running backs in against the Panthers. It could all work out, but it's just really scary. I don't love it by any means. For the Panthers, Chuba's in lineups for sure. It's okay to sit everybody else though. Like I'm not going to mess around with Bryce Young. Xavier Legette, probably the wide receiver to play if you need to, but like Adam Thielen had some involvement last week. I don't mind chasing David Moore if you really need to in deeper leagues. Jalen Coker will be out again this week, and David Moore did seem to be the number 1 target there. So you could go David Moore in like a super deep league format. Again, it feels really gross, but if you need to, I think David Moore could probably come up with like 5 for 60 for you this next week. Next, we got a fun game here between the Eagles and the Ravens. For the Eagles, it's pretty easy every single week. Hurts, Saquon, A.J. Brown, they're in every single week. Devonta Smith, he's in as well if he's active. Dallas Goedert, probably on benches for me, assuming Devonta Smith starts. If Smith is inactive, I think you can start Goddard, but he's not a must start even in that case. For the Ravens, Lamar, Derrick Henry, they're must starts every single week. Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews feel like really solid starts as well. I just think this game could turn into a shootout. It should be a lot of fun. I want to play everybody pretty much in this game. It makes Bateman even a deep league flex play. You probably need a big play or a touchdown to be happy there, but Bateman's been super involved. He is the clear wide receiver 2 on this team at least, so you can play him. Just know that the floor is near zero, but as far as like deep leagues go, 14 team leagues, 12 teams with like 2 or 3 flexes, I think Bateman's a pretty solid option if you need him. Next, we got a fun Sunday night game here between the Niners and the Bills. A lot of variables here. Purdy might miss this game. There's supposed to be a ton of snow, so it could be a really fun game to watch, to be honest. I do expect Brock Purdy to play in this one. It sounds like he's trending to. He got to practice in on Friday. A lot of snow coming this week, but it's a must-win game for the Niners. Like they're 5-6 right now. Probably feel like they need to really start kicking it into high gear at this point. So I think Purdy will play. CMC and Kittle, they're both going to be in my lineups regardless of whether or not Purdy's out there, although of course they do get a bump. I'm okay sitting every other Niner also regardless though. Like Juwan Jennings, he's been great, but it's just tough to trust him in a potential blizzard with like a quarterback that's playing with a hurt shoulder. Deebo Samuel, same thing, has been underwhelming. I don't think you need to play him either. Other than that, though, like I think it's okay. CMC, Kittle, probably nobody else, but if you need to, you can play Jennings and Deebo. It just doesn't feel very great. For the Bills, Josh Allen, James Cook, they're in every single week. You're playing those guys for sure. Kind of okay sitting every other Bill, though. Like Dalton Kincaid's going to miss this game. We're probably going to see Keon Coleman, Amari Cooper, and Khalil Shakir all play here. I'd prefer to play Shakir over those guys just because he operates closer to the line of scrimmage, more manufactured touches, less variables because of the weather there. So I think Shakir is the wide receiver I would play if I needed to, but I'm also just okay seeing all of them there. And the last game here, we got the Browns at the Broncos. Really tough matchup for the Browns here. The Broncos are one of the better defenses in the NFL. That being said, David Njoku, Jerry Jeudy feel like solid players. I'd probably get them both in my lineups as like, low end tight end 1, wide receiver 3 category guys. I'd prefer to sit Nick Chubb, Elijah Moore, and Cedric Tillman though. Cedric Tillman, assuming he plays here, but Nick Chubb, Scored twice last week, so obviously turned into a pretty good fantasy day, but he hasn't been at 3 yards per carry really at all this season. Just doesn't look good. They're not passing the ball to him. I don't want to play Nick Chubb if I can avoid it. Elijah Moore, just not a very good player. I don't trust that. Tillman coming off a really bad down week, concussion last week, tough. He might even draw coverage against Surtain. I don't want to do that. So probably just Judy and Njoku for me for the Browns. For the Broncos, Bo Nix, he's a solid option. I'd be happy to play him. Cortland Sutton, he's in every single week right now. He's just playing too well. And then I'm okay seeing every other Bronco. I'm not going to play a running back. You just can't make me. It could be McLaughlin. It could be Estimate. It could be Javonte. It's probably none of them. So just don't play any of those guys. If you need another receiver for the Broncos, it's Vele. He's the wide receiver too there. But it feels really bad. I just prefer to go Sutton and Nix and then nobody else for the Broncos. So that'll do it. Up next, I'll go over the waiver wire for week 14. So stay tuned for that one. We'll be back to the usual setup. So hopefully we can get you guys going there. No live stream this week. I'm running a marathon on Sunday morning, so I won't be home in time to get that live stream for you guys. But we'll get it back up and rolling here in week 14 to get you guys into the playoffs. So appreciate you guys. Thankful for everybody. Hopefully you guys had a good Thanksgiving. Made it this far in the video, just give it a thumbs up. It helps me out quite a bit. And if you want to make sure you can stick around the rest of the season, get all the future content, make sure you're subscribed, and I'll catch you in future videos. Peace, guys.